My generation, which includes those between 50 and 60 years of age, have up until now really had it relatively easy. We, unlike previous generations, we never got involved in the two great wars or suffered the hardships of generations before then. So this is our time. This is our period of suffering, if you like. I I've been on my own personal lockdown for 51 days. Only been out to put out the rubbish. Not even been out to exercise. And been on the sofa most of the time watching the television, messing around on the iPad, listening to music, reading, that kind of thing. These are unusual times. These restrictions are onerous but necessary. I don't know when we're going to come out of them, but personally, I think we should ease the restrictions later rather than sooner. We need to get those figures, deaths per day, right down to below 50 a day. In my view, anything above that is too high. So that's the kind of figure we should be looking towards reaching before we consider easing restrictions. I I know it's difficult, and not being able to see family and friends, not being able to go out to concerts, the theatre, the cinema, restaurants. And no sport. No sport. Who would have thought that? We can now imagine. Well, not even imagine, because we're going through it at the moment. We can understand what it's like to live in a world without sport, you know, and without social events like gigs and theatre and cinema and going to restaurants and all that kind of stuff. It's all very unusual, but I think we're all dealing with it. Um, Sadly, many have lost their lives. Over 26,000 now. I've been the relatives and of those that have died. Of course, these are unbearable times, and it's deeply sad that many of those are dying. Well, they're all now dying isolated without any relatives or friends being there by their bedsides. So it's a very bad, it's a terrible way of dying. To die in that kind of isolation. The nurses and the doctors and the care workers are magnificent. I mean, I've always been a big supporter of the NHS and never critical of the NHS. I think we've gone through a period in recent years where people are starting to criticise the NHS a bit too often for my liking. And although this is not the best way of restoring the reputation of the NHS, this coronavirus has really showed why we should always be proud of our doctors and our nurses and the NHS, which is fantastic. Some of them, of course, have sacrificed their lives, and to them we all owe a duty of gratitude. It's very sad indeed. So let's hope these restrictions will be lifted but not too soon. I would I would leave it as far as until the end of the year. In fact, there's no need to rush back to normality. We all know the economies is suffering, but money isn't everything. Profit isn't everything. We need to think of a new way of living, and there are going to be many financial hardships ahead. I'm currently unemployed, so it's something I'm used to now. In any case, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of hardships for those who are fortunate enough to be in work. Higher taxes, and I don't think there are going to be too many salary increases. Not in the public sector, and not in the private sector either. You know, these companies have got to restructure and remobilise, and I don't think they're going to be too willing to pay high to give their workers high pay increases. The amount of borrowing is incredible amounts, and of course that is creating a public sector borrowing requirement deficit, which they have to get back somehow, and they will be raising taxes. There can be no doubt about that. And of course, that will mean less disposable income for those in work, and less disposable income means less spending, lower demand, and that in itself can only lead to a spiral downwards, lower growth, and how we all get out of this downward spiral. It's not going to be so easy. So we have to. I think we're going to have a period of 10 to 20 years of austerity. The last depression in 2008. I think it took us 10 years to recover from that. But this one's going to be far worse, and I think a good 20 years before we get back to even keel. So yeah, it's a strange times, and living without sport it's very strange. You know, you put on the television, no sport, no football, no cricket, no boxing, no tennis. Major events have been cancelled this year. The Olympics, the European Championships. It's it's very unusual indeed. But I think we're all getting used to it, and I'm not too I'm not complaining about the way the government has dealt with the whole thing. I think they've responded reasonably well. I suppose we can criticise them for delaying the lockdown for another week or so, but I don't think that helps the situation. And these are unprecedented times, and to be hypercritical is I think inappropriate. But I'd like to see a plan for an exit strategy for so that we can see what the government is thinking. Yes. Okay then. Cheerio.